Hello, everyone. So, if you have been following my channel, there is one playlist which is called May the Oracle Infused with AI Be With You. Sometimes I do keep changing the name, but the idea behind this playlist is how can we merge Oracle ERP with the latest AI ML technologies? That's the primary idea behind this. So, even if you scroll through, there are about 50 plus videos in this playlist. I've taken the latest trends, or could be latest. It could be a little older also, like machine learning, deep learning, but it could be latest technologies. I started with RAG. I started doing things. So during this journey, I also did MCP, if you recollect. So there was one video which I did 9 months ago when MCP was originally launched, Model Context Protocol, and then recently, about 2 months back, I did another MCP video. Now, the first one I used something known as a Claude Desktop, okay, and in the second one I used something known as Claude CLI. But bottom line is, Claude is the name of a product, but the company name is called Anthropic. So, guys, one thing which I always believe is whenever I give you some kind of knowledge, I want to give you a little background also. Okay, I want the Oracle professionals to know what is going on in the Oracle, I'm sorry, outside of Oracle also. That is in the latest AI ML trends. So obviously everybody has heard what is Chat GPT, right? So I don't want to talk about that, but we know there is a company called Anthropic. Okay, now Anthropic as a company has lot many products, and Claude is one of the products. Okay, now Claude is something similar to your ChatGPT as a product, but in addition to the Claude's LLM, that is the Claude LLMs like Opus and all that, they also have other tools and other technologies which they have launched in the market. Okay, and one of them is MCP, and you would have heard there are other tools like Claude Skills, and things like that. So MCP is definitely one of them, and Claude Skills is another. And recently they have actually launched Claude Cowork. They also have Claude Code. So all these are amazing products coming from this company Anthropic, but it is all surrounding the Claude suite of products. Okay, and MCP was one of them, and now recently there is news that they have actually donated MCP to the Unix Foundation, just like HTTP and all. Now MCP is a common protocol, so MC is very important, and in future, I think all the systems in the internet which are connected to the internet will all work based on the MCP protocol. Now think of MCP as a advanced version of an HTTP. Still HTTP is still going to be utilized, I'm sure, but MCP is a different way where, and I know people say MCP is something like a USB-C connector where different systems can easily connect with each other using this protocol called MCP protocol. So I don't want to get into the technical details behind MCP protocol, but know that this is a protocol which is specifically for AI. Okay, so model obviously means any of the models coming out of any of the LLM companies like ChatGPT is one model. The GPT 4.5, GPT 5. These are all models. Similarly, Claude has its own model. Gemini has its own model. So model is basically the LLM. Context is basically the context you provide to the LLM to get your answers queried, and protocol obviously set of rules. So that's the MCP, the meaning of MCP. But why are we even talking about that today? Because there is one difference between what I had done in the past and what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so in the past, two videos which I showed you, I used Claude Desktop, like I said, Claude Desktop. Now this was a locally hosted on my local machine, locally hosted application on my machine. Okay, and then in the same video, what I showed you is that I downloaded a CSV file which contained data from the Oracle Fusion. Okay. And then I'm talking to that in the natural language. That was my first step. The second step was Cloud CLI about 2 months back, the same video which I showed you. Okay. Now, this is again similar to the Cloud desktop, but this is like a CLI version of it. That you don't really need a client application. You can run it at command line interface, and you can talk to the application and get data through the command line interface. And this is where I used MCP heavily, and I showed you that. You can check that video too. But in both these cases, what I had done was the Claude desktop, the Claude CLI, both were locally installed on my machine, yes. But the data from which we are talking, right? The data which is the destination data, that was also locally installed on my machine. And I'm avoiding to use the word client and server yet. Okay, but just understand that desktop is a client, CLI is also a client, but the server also was my same laptop. That is, it could either be a CSV file on my machine, or it was a REST API which was running on my machine. In both these cases, the client and the server both were on my machine. Now, today I'm going to take it a little further. So we will still have a client. Okay, we will still have a server. Okay, before we talk about that client, we'll first talk about this server. Now, what I have done, team, what I have done is I have created a remote MCP server, because you need to understand the terminology is being used, because there are so many things in MCP. Sometimes it gets confused. So that's why I'm clarifying that. Today, I'm going to show you the remote MCP server which I created for the same Oracle receivables functionality. Now you may think that why am I, trying to do the same thing which I did in the other videos using different technologies. See, the idea behind my playlist to in this specific playlist is not to teach you the Oracle's core ERP functionalities. That we have other playlist. Here I'm trying to leverage the data out of the standard ERP. Okay, but I'm trying to teach you the technology which is related to the AI industry right now. Okay, so that's the idea. So what I've done is I created a remote MCP server, okay, which I'm going to connect to my client. Now, why do we need to do this? What is different from this and this? The difference is, see, if I do it locally on my machine, okay, it doesn't make any purpose, right? In the sense, I have to basically share it with others so that others can utilize this. And that's the purpose of doing it as a server. If I do everything locally, I would have just run a simple query, or, run a simple REST API based Python program or something to get the data. But that's not the idea. The idea is I create a remote server and I publish it so that others can utilize it. Okay, so that's the idea behind using MCP. Okay, and it's going to be in a standard format, so it is easy for all the clients which speak the same language, the same MCP language, easily connect to the server. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so otherwise, HTTP based REST API and MCP are all similar things in the sense I can still run an HTTP based REST API. Like, for example, this is the Oracle's get receivables REST API, right? I can always query this directly using some Python, OICS program or Python program or a C program or whatever to get the data. But remember, the idea behind MCP is to standardize it. Okay, to standardize the process from the backend side, and it is easy to query data using natural language. That's the main difference. Okay, again, there is still, even I am debating with myself whether this is really going to help us in the Oracle's framework. But then, unless we dig deeper into that, we are not going to understand that. Okay, and my attempt is to dig deeper into the technology. Okay, and I'll come to all of this. First, let's talk about this one. So before I proceed to show you on the screen, I want to also add a couple of things. Now, what are the different things which I have done? Okay. First is I picked a REST API, which is available, right? Which is Oracle's own REST API. Now, based on that, I created a code which calls that REST API and gets me the data. Very simple. You might have already done that. Then I publish this in GitHub. That was the next step. Because if I want to make it public, if I want to publish it for others to use, then I have to put it on a common, public framework, and GitHub obviously is the best one. And then I used Railway to create the MCP server out of that code. So the REST API again was given by Oracle. The code which I've written that calls or invokes the REST API, I will say invokes the invokes the REST API to get me the data. And right now, as a first step, obviously I don't want to build, or rather I cannot build something complex without understanding the basics first. So that's why I started with the foundation of a simple REST API, which is this one. Just querying the data. Nothing post related, but only get related. That was my first step. Okay. So invoke the REST API, which gets me the data. Then I publish that code to the GitHub. And then Railway. I used Railway create the MCP server. Now, if you have seen my previous video on the same playlist, if you scroll down, deploy an AI application in production with Railway. This is where I started trying out the Railway application, which is really helpful for me to deploy anything in production. And guys, I did receive some negative feedback about that too. I agree. So we may not be using Railway for building some simple application. And the comment which came was that, why can't we do that within the Oracle Fusion, which is true, which is true. I do not deny that. But again, the idea behind this playlist is in addition to Oracle ERP's own functionality, let's say we are in the process of building and headless implementation or any other thing where we cannot utilize or the Oracle's AI agent internal, which is still to be explored, but we still need data to be retrieved. We can use functionalities. It is always good to know multiple ways to retrieve data, right? That is the idea behind that. Okay. So in this one, I had published I've used Railway. I showed you how to use Railway. So we are going to leverage the same Railway even for the current project. Okay. So I created a REST API. I'm sorry, I used a REST API which was published by Oracle. I created a code which invokes the REST API, passes the credentials. Remember, URL, username, password, which gets me the data. This is published in the GitHub, and the railway application is used to create the actual MCP server, which can be shared with others. That's the idea. Now, let me minimize this and let me first show you the railway applications. So if you're familiar, in the last video, I was talking about the receivables agent. Okay, that was a simple application. So similar to that, I started creating something called Oracle MCP. I did this in iterations. That's why the name is so simple. I had some other things going on too, but those things did not work. Okay, and this is where I've deployed it. So it's the source is coming from GitHub, as you can see, and I can share this GitHub repo also with you guys so you can see this code. Okay, so this is the GitHub code, which basically creates that server. Now you can see this is the server, not the client. Okay. Remember, what I'm publishing, it's going to be the server. Client is something you will have to build or you will have to utilize from your own client application. Client application is not something which is shareable. It is something either your company or you will build, or you can use any of the MCP compatible clients. Okay. Remember that. Now, first let me show you the client which I built using Python. Okay. And then I'll show you another client. So I go to my VS Code and I run the Streamlit application. I called it MCP client. So this stream, it's running on my local machine. So client is always something which either runs on your local machine or it could be within your company's network. Okay. The client is supposed to access the MCP. Now, this is the URL of the MCP in production. Now, again, if I go to the railway, see, you see this, I've hosted this on railway. So the thing is to host an MCP service on the cloud, I just cannot give a direct link to the code which is hosted on GitHub. That's not possible. It has to be published. And to publish that in production, we have to use railway. Remember that. That's what I was trying to explain here. That you put the code in GitHub, but then you have to publish in a tool like railway, create it as a public MCP server or shareable MCP server. And that's what I did. And then when you do that, the system gives you a link. So the link which railway gave me was this one. Let me copy paste this for you. Okay. So as you can see, it says Aura MCP production up railway.app.mcp. So this is the MCP server. And let's try to run this directly. So it's basically it's saying, obviously because it needs credentials and things like that, right? So that's why it's doing this. Okay. But anyway, you can see that it is giving some return. This is what we wanted. So MCP is running in production. MCP is right now live, and you guys can also try this out. Okay, that's the main thing. The purpose of writing an MCP server is for others to use it and see. And then in this case, I would like your help to use it and test it and even break it and tell me where it does not work. Because this needs a lot of work, team. Okay, this is not done. This is just the first step. And to be honest, for me to reach to this point in MCP took me a long time. In fact, it took me 2 months or 3 months. It was really not working. Thankfully, when I got to know about railway, things made more sense to me because till that time it was really a struggle for me. Okay. Now coming to this, now obviously when you try to run the MCP server, you have to run it for your own Oracle logins, right? So let me put the Oracle logins here, and I'll come back. So I've entered the Fusion base URL here, the username and the password. Now, obviously, you can run it for your own, and you can even try to run it right now because this application is live. Okay, this application is live, but the only thing is you will not have a client like this because this is the client which is local to my machine. But I will show you what I did. You can try that on your local machine, or I can publish this program also, the same program live, and you can use this Streamlit to get this data. Okay, and this case, you see that there is no OpenAI key or anything required. Okay, because this is just a simple uh, REST API query in natural language, but it won't really need the OpenAI key at this moment. Okay, so I've given the username, the password. Now let's click on this one, list MCP tools. So it's running. So it says connected, found two tools, and the tools are get receivable invoices. So coming back to this, when I created the MCP, right, I gave it MCP as think of MCP like a bucket or a package which has multiple functions within that. Okay, so I just gave it some simple functions which involves getting the receivable invoice like always. Fusion resource you can ignore, that is a system generated one, but we can add a lot of functionalities to the same MCP server so that it can do multiple things. And the reason I called it AR invoices via remote MCP because this is going to be different from the local local MCP server. Okay. And see, fetch invoices. Now I'm going to do the fetch invoices. Now this is in turn fetching the invoices from the MCP server, which is in turn connected to the REST API in Oracle using these credentials. I hope you understood the flow. And while this comes up, team, you may ask me, I could have just run a REST API and get this data. Yes, very true, very true. But the idea behind this video is that we can utilize MCP also to do that. And in future, right, when we build more complex applications, remember we have to build a lot of MCP servers, and this is just the first step towards that. That's why you might think that it is, why is it even needed? So we have to debate with ourselves sometimes whether MCP is really needed or not. Uh, there may be use cases where MCP is different from the REST APIs. Okay. Now I have not added any natural language information in this one. Right now it is just querying this. But to use this as a natural language, we have to build some clients which can talk to this in a natural language. But what I did, team, I'm going to show you something interesting, and which I will be showing, which you've probably seen in my past videos also. So there is something known as Claude Desktop, which I originally used in my first MCP video. This one, 9 months by Claude Desktop. Now, Claude Desktop is a software, it's a utility from Anthropic, which is speaking the language of MCP. So for it connect with any of the MCP servers, it's very easy for it to do that. That's why I'm going to use that. Let me show that to you. So this is the Claude Desktop theme. Okay. Now let me go to this plus sign. You can see there is add files, connectors, and more. I want to show you a certain connector. Okay. So if you see here connector, I have added this connector called Aura MCP. Okay. This is turned off. I'm sorry. I had to. So this Aura MCP is the same. You can see if you are familiar with the logo here, that Aura MCP is nothing but the server, MCP server, which I was just showing you on Railway. So now let me ask it. Hey, can you show me list of MCPs you have access to? There is one security risk when it comes to using this, which I'm going to talk about, and which you need to take care when you build your actual client. But today, since we are just seeing the functionality of the MCP server, remote MCP server being called in your local machine, I'm just going to show that to you. But remember, when you do that in a client like this, there is a security risk. Okay, and I'll talk to you about it shortly. But look, I just queried. So all these are different MCP servers which I have added, and the first one obviously shows Aura MCP. Okay, so this is the exact one. And previously I had created something for payables also, but this won't work now because the credential is no longer working. But today I added Aura MCP. Okay, now before I say let's go to here, you see this is the Aura MCP which I added, and you can see that this is the same railway MCP link over here. Okay, the one which I created here, this one. So this is how I created or connected uh, MCP which I created out of Oracle with Claude MCP Desktop. Now the reason it works with Claude is Claude has been designed to work with remote MCPs also, in addition to the local MCPs, because that's on Claude's own language. That's why it was very easy. This is not possible for other, even Claude.ai, that is the online version of Claude, doesn't allow this, or I don't think even ChatGPT allows that, because now ChatGPT also has options to add remote MCP servers, but not custom ones, and specifically the ones like this. It's not having that feature yet, maybe in future. Okay. But otherwise, think of it like you can open ChatGPT and ask questions about your own company database just by connecting to the MCP. That's also possible. And that's where we are trying to get slowly. So people who are skeptical about the whole MCP or why we are doing this is the answer for them. Understand this in terms of technology right now, because down the line we will see how all these are merging together, okay, and how these things will make more sense in future. All right. So coming back, let's go to the chat again. I think I lost that. Okay, here it is. All right. So now I'm going to ask a question. What exactly is the Aura MCP server? Let me see what it says. Aura MCP appears to be the custom MCP server you built or have access to. It has functions. Okay. Get fusion resource and get receivable invoices. Specialized function to fetch AR invoices. Both require URL, username, and password with each call. This looks like stateless credential per request. So it's basically giving me the information about the MCP. Now the thing is, team, let's say I ask it. Okay. Now this is where the risky area starts, and that's why you need to build a better version of your MCP client. Can you list the AR invoices because it does not have credentials. Now, as you can see, I will need the Oracle Fusion credentials. Um, but the problem is this user interface does not block the password for us, right? I can give the username password over here, but it is not going to block it. So what I'm going to do for the sake of this video, I am going to pass it, but I'll not be showing that to you. But after that, we can scroll down and we can see the responses. Okay. So once I connected, I asked it a question. Can you give me 5 invoices? So basically, I had to pass the username, password, and the URL, which obviously I cannot show that to you. And hence, we cannot use Claude client for our purpose. But then you have to get some kind of MCP compatible client built, okay, which can help you see the data. Something like what I showed you earlier. But that was just a Streamlit UI which I created, which connects to the MCP server to show you the data. That's possible. That's one thing. It's querying the data now. Here are the 5 invoices from Oracle Fusion, invoice one, invoice two. Okay. All the invoices are from the UK business unit, legal entity, and all that. Okay. So definitely this queries data from the MCP, shows it to you on your screen, but you would still need to build a better MCP client. Now, the existing companies will have some sort of UI, right? Some sort of UI which might be MCP compatible. So you can just plug this in as a utility along with that. Now, in future, what I'm going to do is now I'm trying to, as you know, we also have a playlist in Oracle's own AI agent, right? Oracle's own AI agent. Now, I'm going to try to access this kind of MCP with Oracle's own AI agent to see whether we can read that within Oracle Fusion. Because Oracle 26A is what I heard. If you go to uh, Oracle Fusion 26A AI agent MCP, so I heard this, which I'm yet to explore. So it says connect to external MCP servers from AI Agent Studio. And now that we have built an external MCP server, so you may ask me, Shiv, why did you do all this? The end goal is this. This is what I'm trying to achieve. But for creating an external MCP server, I had to go through the entire journey which I just showed you. Okay. So this is what I want to do. And probably now that I have a external REST API ready with me, I can add this functionality. I will try to add this functionality to the AI Agent Studio. Now, if anybody wants to volunteer, help me out on this. So, guys, as you know, we are all learning things together, right? So, I did the server piece of it. If somebody is willing to work with me, help me out. Help me out in connecting this to the client, that is Oracle's own AI agent. That will be amazing. If not, I'm going to try it too. But like I said, there are requests, there are comments coming that this functionality is not of great use to me, this is not of great use to me, things like that, or this is of extreme good importance. But think of it this way, team. Individually, things may not make sense, but collectively, they make more sense. Okay. So the idea behind doing individual servers was not that I wanted to create a Claude desktop and show it to you, or that, I wanted to build a Streamlit UI and show it to you. At the end of the day, this is what I want to do. Okay. And I'm still trying to get to this place. If this works, that'll be amazing. And if you guys can help me, that'll also be amazing. Now, I definitely want to give a call out to one of, and this is the training I took a few months back from Kshitij, Mastering MCP, beginning to pro across the AI ecosystem. This was really good, team. I mean, it won't be showing you things which you can do from Oracle's perspective, yeah. But if you want to understand the concepts of MCP, this is one of the best trainings I've ever seen. So I would definitely appreciate if you can. Again, this is not a sponsored thing or anything. I'm just doing it because I learned or based on this training, Kshitij Joy's training on MCP. So I thought I should share that with you. Okay, so I'll give a shout out to Kshitij, who was very instrumental behind what I did in terms of my own MCP journey. A lot of information was available in this, which helped me build this. Okay, so thanks, Kshitij. But coming back, team, try all these MCPs. So right now, this MCP is currently live. You can use it if you want. I mean, I have actually purchased credits for railway for a month. So I think the entire Jan and mid of February, I will have access to the railway application. I did not I mean, I think it's like $5 or something per month. So I just used railway to publish. And after that is gone, I don't think it's going to be available. So if you guys want, you can try to access this MCP along with your own credentials. But remember, I mean, if you want, I can also publish this application online for you to try. Maybe I can put the same thing on the same railway also as a client. This which connects to this server. You can try it and you can see if it works for you. Okay, I know this was a relatively long video when it comes to MCPs and things, but this is a journey I wanted to take for achieving the Oracle's own AI agent 26a related MCP server connectivity. I really wanted to do that, but I could not have done that directly, so I had to go through this entire journey. Okay, all right team, I hope you like what you've seen today. If you have questions, please go ahead and like and comment and put all your questions in the comment section. You might have questions, I think. uh, let's see how it goes. All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you in the next session.